seemed like a pretty decent rate. It took about 2 days, it was 2.5, 3 days to scan, the entire scope of our tests. But the question then kind of becomes, the SSH keys was our biggest finding. Don't people use security groups to protect their instances? If I have an SSH key, it shouldn't matter if I can't reach the SSH port. So here's just a slide kind of explaining EC2 security groups. It's just like a firewall policy. There's a screenshot there. The interesting thing is they're inbound only unless you're in virtual private cloud. So outbound traffic from a potentially malicious AMI, there's really not a strong way to filter that. You could use IP tables or something on the instance, but when it's someone else's provided AMI, at least the first time you run it, you're running their configuration. So we did some testing of security group practices. I released these AMIs across all regions to allow running Backtrack 5 in EC2 on June 23rd. Just kind of announced it publicly in a couple of different places. I thought this was an interesting sample because it's something that people that are more security minded might be interested in. Has anybody here actually used these at all? I'm just curious. No. Okay. Well, it was also useful to me for gathering data and statistics. There was a phone home script in it. Now, this wasn't a true backdoor. It wasn't anything that I could log into. I couldn't execute code in the boxes. But it did report some data back to me when it was launched. Here's the script. Oh, it's on the next page. So there was a script that was part of the startup, collected some metadata from the EC2 metadata API and sent it back to me. Here's the script itself. And you'll notice there's comments kind of explaining what we're trying to do and trying to calm people down that it's not real malicious. Notice the curl directs the entire output to dev null, so I can't save it as a script and run it. It's got a website there. If you have questions, visit this. The website explained it and kind of solicited feedback to say, how did you find this? I'd like to kind of gather processes that have been helpful in discovering these sorts of things. And I was planning on crediting people who had found it. But as you can see, nobody contacted me. Nobody hit that web page. So it doesn't seem like too many people found it. So we received 95 phone homes as of July 31st. This was 69 unique instances. And when we received a phone home, we would try and connect back on 22 and pull an SSH banner. We were successful in 71.5% of cases. 72% if you counted it by unique instances rather than all instances to get rid of the effects of people rebooting an existing instance. So yeah, that's kind of concerning. That tells me that 70% of people who are presumably somewhat security minded because they're downloading Backtrack after all, or not downloading, but they're running Backtrack in the cloud. Didn't bother to properly firewall off their SSH port. If instead of putting this phone home, I'd put the phone home in addition to the SSH key, which you'll remember was our most common finding, it's a pretty safe bet that I would have had, had root access to, most, if not all, of these boxes. So our lessons here, we kind of summarized them already. One interesting thing I think is that, it doesn't seem like too much of a stretch to say that the average user is probably worse off than our sample. Again, more sophisticated backdoors would be harder to detect than this, and nobody detected this. So that doesn't bode well for using malicious AMIs and actually finding them. When you use a public AMI, you're putting a lot of trust in the publisher. So at the very least, consider the source of the image, who that person is. If you want to be super safe, build your own images. But at the very least, consider that images from Amazon or another trustworthy provider, official open source maintainers, may be more safe than trust in me.
So as we're in the midst of this project, Amazon published a number of new documents giving some security guidance and best practices. We wanted to offer some links in our slide deck to these. So if you're using their web services, we encourage you to go check out all the guidance that Amazon's published out there about sharing AMIs, how to do it safely, how to use public AMIs in a safe fashion. And there's a whole bunch of articles out there on this elastic.com site from Eric Hammond. So we would encourage you to check those out. There's a lot of good material out there. And Jeff mentioned this earlier. So where would you obtain trustworthy third-party AMIs besides you building them from scratch yourself? Well, Amazon themselves offers supported and maintained images. You can follow the link up there or find it yourself, and they've got a number of images out there. They have their own Yum repository, security updates, product lifecycle. If you want to pay for their premium support service, these are the images they're going to support. So this makes a good option to enterprises or other organizations that are using their services there. There's a number of third-party vendors that also provide their own AMI images, RightScale, Cloudera, a number of other vendors. And one of the best practices, we've talked to some large organizations that heavily leverage web services from Amazon, is many of them take Amazon's own images as a base and then build a customized AMI for their own application suite on top of it. And then they can leverage Amazon's lifecycle and support and package updates to keep their base up to date. And then just all they have to worry about is updating whatever the application code or other suite they added on top of that was. If you find issues in the cloud, we had a really good experience working with Amazon's security team. They're very responsive. They're easy to get a hold of. They investigate every report. So you can find them online. They have a forum, PGP keys, email addresses. It's not hard to get a hold of them. And we just wanted to give thanks to Beetle from the Amazon Web Services security team and the rest of his team for working with us as we did this project, and for working. We were creating work for them as they were doing customer notifications as we fed these findings to them. And also thank our bosses at Dell SecureWorks for authorizing us to do this project and giving us a little bit of budget to make it happen. We'll be moving over to the Q&A room here shortly across the hall. I'd like to meet any of y'all that are using cloud services, have questions, or have some information to share with us. So I hope some of y'all will join us in the QA room across the hall. Thank you. Appreciate your time.